Good afternoon. It's 4 o'clock on December 11th, Tuesday, 2018. Please call a meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, should we please take the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Durancheck.
Here.
Krieger.
Yes.
Begic.
Here.
Coonan.
Here.
Ryder.
Here.
Lutz.
Here.
Eric.
Here.
All members present.
Thank you. After the invocation today, we'll have a moment of silence in memory of Tiffany Jerry's sister Shannon Justice, who recently passed, and of Big Don Krisiak from the south end of Bay City, who, you know, did a lot for the town too, and he passed away last Friday, I guess, and but he'll be missed too. Both of them will be very missed. And so please stand for invocation and moment of silence.
Lord God, the strength of all who put their trust in you, we ask that you will bless this session of the Board of Commissioners this day, and that you will lead and guide this board in the decisions made so that all citizens in this community will benefit. In your holy name we ask this. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next will be the minutes of 11/13/18 and 11/20/18.
Motion to approve as presented.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, citizen input. If there's anyone from the audience who'd like to come and address the commission, please step to the podium, state your name and your address would be great, and speak away.
Indulge me while I put my new cataract glasses on. My name is Fred Zippler, the business manager of the AMVETS Post 22. I also belong to PLAV Post 162. Also belong to the Vietnam Vets of America, Chapter 494. In addition, I help Bruce Douglas with his home for homeless veterans as much as I can, time permitting. I have a little statement I'd like to read if you'll indulge me. Is this working?
It works.
I would like to be considered for service on the newly created Veterans Affairs Commission. Having said that, I would point out that I am not a crony of anyone, nor will I be a lackey of anyone, or be a yes man to anyone. I'm a veteran, a permanently disabled Vietnam veteran rated at 100% since 2005. I fully understand the plight of my fellow veterans, especially our disabled veterans. What has recently happened with the current Soldiers and Sailors Relief Commission has been nothing short of a disgrace to our veterans community. I could give you example after example of shoddy treatment I've heard from other veterans. However, I won't do that. It would be considered hearsay. Nor will I speculate on what the Commission's endgame is. It's not fair. I can only offer my own experience with the Commission. Back in April 2005, I was taken to the hospital suffering from congestive heart failure, I later found out. After a quadruple heart bypass, I was discharged 9 days later. I went through 2 months of rehabilitation, sometimes very painful, but necessary. Then one day, my wife and I come up here to see the lady representing the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund. I just don't remember the reason why we come up here. But as we were talking, she pulled a file folder from her desk containing a newspaper article explaining the effects of exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam. She immediately took me to see the service advisor who filed a claim for me. At that point, I had no idea about Agent Orange or even veterans disability. After waiting 4 months, I was approved at 100% disability. What brought this congestive heart failure on, I found that I was diabetic and didn't know it. Fast forward now to October of 2017. I suffered a heart attack. It was taken by ambulance to the hospital. In fact, I think that was the month I was taken out of here. We had our West Council meeting. After spending 5 days in hospital, I received approval from the VA to receive cardiac care from a non-VA doctor. In November of 2017, a month later, once again I was taken via ambulance to the hospital with another heart attack. It happened again in December. Then in January of 2018, and again in February 2018. In case you lost count, that's 5 heart attacks in 5 consecutive months. If it's a Guinness record or not, I don't know. During my February stay in hospital, Dr. Joseph, who is my cardiac doctor, prescribed a new medication called Entresto. You may have seen the commercials on television for it. It's designed to beef up your heart muscle, strengthen your heart muscle. After being discharged, I discovered the cost of a 30-day supply of Entresto cost about $500. The VA would not pay for it. The reason being there is no generic for the drug, and it was just too expensive. I was given an application from Dr. Joseph's office for help, to try to get help, from the Novartis Foundation, the manufacturer of the drug, and was told that even if I was approved, it might take 3 to 4 months to start receiving it. At that point, I directly asked the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Fund Administrator for help. His response was, "We don't do prescriptions." Now, I wouldn't have expected that level of help every month, but maybe 1 month or 2 weeks, anything. I received no help. I paid out of pocket $500 for the first 2 full months. Then I paid weekly after that for about 5 weeks. Then, thank God, I was finally approved from Novartis for 1 year. Now, I don't consider myself indigent, nor am I affluent. Anyone being honest with themselves or with me would admit they would face a definite dilemma and hardship. My last example of ineptitude and disgraceful actions of the current commission will be our transportation system. Long before my time, Bruce Douglas started a transportation system for our veterans, for doctor appointments, hospital visits, etc. As time passed, Bruce passed the torch to Tom Brady, who enhanced the program, who then, after a few years, passed it to Frank Lewandowski, who further enhanced the program. They enlisted a close-knit group of volunteer drivers, many of whom are non-veterans, who all do a stellar job. In these days, extreme, apathetic attitude by the general public, our elected officials, and sad to say, some of our veterans, these drivers are a definite breath of fresh air. With Frank now having to cut back on his responsibilities, in comes the Soldiers and Sailors Commission, even after we had no less than 3 people volunteer to assume Frank's job. Now I'm told the phone hours have been reduced, the restrictions on who may use the program. Our drivers are getting confused and frustrated. Is this any way for a veteran to treat a veteran? I am a veteran. If I'm fortunate enough to receive this appointment, I will work tirelessly for our veterans, but at the same time, as they say, not give away the store. In conclusion, I would recommend that all new faces be put in this committee. Our veterans need new ideas and more common sense treatment. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Javisky?
Good afternoon. My name is Gary.
Excuse me one second. If anyone, we're going to speak on the Veterans Fund in just a minute. We're going to have a public hearing on it, but I'd like to know if there's anybody else who had any other comments other than about the Veterans Fund. If there's a, we'll go right into that, and then you can stay right up there in a second, okay? But first, let's see, if there's anyone else who'd like to speak about anything other than the veterans right now. Okay, hang on one second. So let's do this. Let's go out of regular order of business and make a motion to go out of regular order of business, and then we can listen to everyone talk. We can have everyone talk about the veterans and the Veterans Fund, the Veterans new committee that.
Support.
Any more discussion? All's in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're all about the veterans.
Okay, my name is Gary Javisky. I'm the Bay County Vets Council Honor Guard. And as a veteran, when you come up here to speak, before you leave and before you come up here and before you leave, you should salute that flag. That is protocol. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Art Schupak. I'm the Bay County Veterans Council Commander. I'm also a member of the American Legion, PLAV, VVA, and Vets, and also like member of the MOPH, Purple Heart. I just came up to say we're having severe problems with our transportation system. We have veterans that need their wives to go with them that aren't being allowed to ride to the VA with them through the transport system, which is wrong. We never did that in the past, and I don't see why we should start now. Somebody that doesn't have to go, I can see no. But somebody that needs his wife with him, yes. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak about the creation of the Department of Veterans Affairs?
Yeah, I'm Mike Pergandy. I live in the South End. I am the district commander of the American Legion for 14 counties, including Bay County. The American Legion is the largest veterans organization in Bay County with over 900 members. I agree with Fred. You need new faces. Start from scratch. Create a program that will work. Thank you.
Mr. Barsha?
Yeah, I was just going to respond to Mr. Schupak's comment. I asked Craig, because I hadn't heard that before, Art, and I believe that was an isolated incident. We definitely do not want to have as a policy a prohibition on spouses attending to a medical appointment with their spouse. So I just asked our Director of Administrative Services, who we really want to do more to inspire, the volunteers and whatever it takes to make sure we always have a ride for our veterans in need. And when I heard your statement, I asked Craig, and I believe there was limited space, and a veteran would have had to not ride his appointment to allow the spouse. So I'm not sure what size vehicle was our, but we will definitely look into it, and that ought not to be the policy of Bay County. So we'll make sure and follow up on that. And I appreciate the other comments from the vets too.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak about the Department of Veterans Affairs?
Keith Markstrom, President of Bay Veterans Foundation, also a member of the American Legion Post 18, a life member of Veterans Foreign Wars. I fully support the creation of the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I think it's a good time we should take time, though, in creating this. and learn from some of the weaknesses that have evolved with the Soldier Sailors Relief Commission in the past. Having recently resigned from that and having been aware of the previous commission, it's been unfortunate that we really hadn't had any written policies. Pretty much the protocols were developed kind of on as-you-go basis. I think that with the creation of this department, we need to study some others who are successful across the state of Michigan. I look at Genesee County, who recently, through their Soldier Sailors Fund and their Metro bus system, are working on transportation solutions for veterans that go beyond even going to doctor appointments and the VA appointments. I think Traverse City has a great program. And I think Roscommon has got an excellent program. So I think that we need to take a look at the best practices and bring them into the county. I think that these folks who have worked in the past have done a very good job. They work from their heart. I think we might have been premature in axing the Soldier Sailors Commission from the county because it kind of puts us in limbo too. And I realized that was the case when it was under the county's jurisdiction. So until we can get some direction from the state, I think we need to tread slowly and make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's. There are a lot of activities going on for veterans, but in this county, just like across the country, they're very fragmented. And we got a group working on this and a group working on this and one over here. One of the reasons that we're working to get this activity center going is that we can bring a lot of those factions together and make a stronger service program for all veterans. So I fully support what we're doing. I can't substantiate some of the concerns and complaints I've registered. Quite frankly, they surprise me, and if there's truth to them, and I can't say there isn't, it's disturbing. So I just urge the commission to move slowly, but keep moving forward. Thank you.
I'm Troy Stewart. I reside at 216 DeBovish. Nothing against Gary, but Marines don't salute indoors, nor do we salute without our covers on or unless we're under arms, just to make that very clear. So we will not be saluting the flag, not being under arms nor without a cover. That's against Marine Corps policy. I was in the ground forces in the Marine Corps for enlisted side for over 20 years. This Veterans Affairs group we're putting together, I think, is the right thing to do. Having 2 or 3 people making the decision, I think, is wrong. I think you're going the right direction. I can tell you the travels I had in getting out, my first 2 years coming out of the service were probably the hardest 2 years of my life. It was hard to get adjusted, hard to get used to back to a civilian organization and getting back to a different routine, not being around the same type of people I was accustomed to. And I'd spent 20 years and I retired at a very high rank. What happens with our young lance corporals and corporals that get out and they come back to a community that they're not really familiar with anymore, their family's a little bit different, and actually they're the ones that are a little different, but it's hard to adjust. This vet center that's going downtown, maybe the money wasn't done exactly the right timing or maybe right from the exact place, but that's probably your money better spent from what I've seen from the young Marines and the young soldiers and sailors. And my daughter currently serves in the Navy, so we're very well connected to that. My son-in-law just got out of the Air Force, so I'm very well familiar with the veteran side on the enlisted side. 22 veterans kill themselves every day. That's just the way it is. Why that is, I couldn't tell you, other than I can tell you, my experience is it's hard to adjust when you get out. A vet center where they can come down, relax around other people that are vets with common stories, common experiences, I think will relax people and maybe help them get back in the community. Also, this vet center, from what I understand, there'll be no alcohol. I think that's an important thing. In the military, and mostly for enlisted side, there's hobby shops on base where you can take your vehicle in, you can go in and talk to people about how to fix your electricity, your plumbing. We don't have that here in Bay County. We have a lot of veterans. USOs at the airports, have you ever seen the signs of USOs? They won't let you in unless you're a veteran. You go in there, usually there's some, maybe a widowed veteran's wife running it. You come in there, there's snacks, there's sandwiches, there's drinks, there's juice, there's no alcohol. And there's nothing X-rated on the televisions. It's all family-oriented, but it's a place for the military to go relax. And I envision that's what's going to happen with the Vet Center downtown. So the money that came from the soldiers and sailors, maybe it didn't come exactly the way it was supposed to, but I really think dollar for dollar, you're going to see a lot better improvement to your veterans in this community, a lot better help with that portion of the money. Granted, the veterans are still out there that need help with their medications. I understand Fred's concern there. We have a lot of veterans that can't afford the medication. And he's right, the VA does not pay for name brand prescriptions, which take 20 years to come out with a generic. So that money is still there, but the money that was invested, I think you're going to see a really good turnaround. I think you're going to see a great place for veterans to go. I know as a commandant of the local Marine Corps League here in town, our detachment is excited to go down there and sit with the young veterans and see if we can help them with things like running a water pipe, fixing a clog, maybe a spouse that's overseas needs help with their brakes. Those are things we can help with. Things are within our wheelhouse, and we can make a difference for these people instead of hiring an $80 plumber to fix a drain that we can go over and fix in 20 minutes because we have the experience with us. So thank you for your time. I don't want to take up too much time, but as much as I respect that flag, I will not salute it indoors. Thank you.
My name's Derek Taylor, 1675 Cass Avenue. I'm one of the volunteer drivers, and I'm a member of the Michigan Democratic Party and a proud member of the Bay County Democratic Party. I recognize a lot of faces here, and I'm not a veteran, but I am a driver. And I just want this commission to know that it was the way this driver setup was run was excellent by Frank Lewandowski, Tom. They did, I'm not a speaker, so I'm a little nervous. Anyway, it ran great. Soldiers and sailors started taking over. All hell broke loose. All right, here's my main concern. They said, if we don't have enough volunteers, we're shutting the program down. I want everybody to know here, you can't shut that program down. That's the taxpayers' money. I don't care, you got to spend money to hire drivers. You cannot, shut that program down. I just want everybody to know that. But the program ran great without the soldiers and sailors. I'm not one of these guys. But there are other drivers that are they're not soldiers or whatever you want to call them. They're veterans, yeah. And right now we don't have a problem with finding help. But eventually we probably will have a little problem because we're all getting to be a little bit older now. But that's all I wanted to let you guys know. But soldiers and sailors, as far as I'm concerned, you shouldn't let them handle the money of these guys. These guys know what they're doing. Fred, especially. That guy knows, he knows all about it. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
My name is Constance Grimmer. I am one of the drivers for the vets and their transportation to the hospital. I have a lot of faith in this program. We can take up to 15, 16 people to the hospital from their homes into the hospital every day during the week, and they really need to go. And about a year ago, during one of my drives, I was attacked by one of the veterans on my last trip home, taking him home. And this is what happened, along with other things. My teeth were knocked out. I had stitches in my forehead, and I'm still overcoming that tragedy and going between two hospitals trying to figure out how to get my teeth fixed from this incident. It's still pending litigation. And to tell you how much I could have quit, resigned this program because I still find the incident traumatic. But I have so much faith in this program and the way it has been run up until about a month ago, when Frank was running it. It was great. It was smooth. We knew our parts. We know how it's run. But up until a month ago, I know Crystal is, wherever she is, I don't know what she looks like, has been trying to do her best, but she's overwhelmed. And it should be run by someone who knows the system, who knows how it's run, and knows what to do. It's in chaos right now. And it's a great system when it's running smoothly, and these veterans really do need this. And we also need some recruitment for drivers. I don't think that's been done officially. I have done recruitment for lawyers, for nurses, and whatever. I could do that sometimes, but right now I'm busy driving because it's really needed. I could do that on the side. But right now, we need things to get back to normal. We need things to get back to the way they were when Frank was doing it. So if somebody can work with Frank to see how that can be done, it needs to go back to the way it was. And I'm sure Frank has some great ideas. So that's what I want to say, and thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, if I could just react. I want to thank each of the veterans who've spoken, especially, sorry I've forgotten your name, well, Derek and Connie. Yeah, Connie. I remember the occasion when you were assaulted, and I hope that isn't, I hope that the individual is being prosecuted, certainly. And we wish you the very best in your recovery, and I want to thank each of the veterans who are speaking today. Your input is critical. I know it takes a lot to get up here in front of a podium, speak on camera and in public. Obviously, you have great insights to share with us. We are listening, and I think the process should be not expedited, but slowed down to make sure we get all the input from as many people as we can so that we can address some of these issues that have been touched upon by some of the speakers this afternoon. Thank you.
My name's Tom Brady. I was a 2014 Veteran of the Year, and I also ran the driver's program for 3.5 years before Frank took over. That is not a 9-to-5 job. You can't turn that phone on at 9 o'clock in the morning and turn it off at 3 in the afternoon. The driver breaks down, the driver has a problem, who do they get a hold of? And that's the way it's being ran right now. And running this is not a 9-to-5 job. I was putting in 65 to 70 hours a week as a volunteer, and so was Frank. We didn't ask for anything. But this has to be ran properly. And it's not being done right now. And I asked at the last veterans meeting, who's looking for new drivers? That was part of our responsibility. And I said, well, what are we going to do if nobody's looking for them? Somebody at the meeting said, we'll shut it down. That's not right. I don't want to see that happen. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Just one more comment. And, you know, part of this proposal would, as I think most of the veterans here tonight, hopefully around the county, realize, the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Fund is appointed by the probate judge of Bay County. This commission didn't appoint those 3 members, and if that decision was made, you know, I think that's unfortunate, because I was at Frank's party out at MVets. He's a wonderful guy, and as all of you have said, he's worked tirelessly on making sure veterans who need transportation to medical appointments or otherwise, we're there for them. We invested $56,000 in the new bus, you know, the new vehicle, the Bay County Veterans vehicle with a chairlift, and so I think that demonstrates commitment to wanting to be there for each and every veteran. Our almost 9,000 veterans, men and women in Bay County, who are entitled to those benefits and as many benefits as they are entitled to. We need to make sure that they get them, but there would be a new board of either 5 or 7, depending on what the commission determines. And then this commission would be 1 county commissioner who'd serve on it. And that would be the link to the county, of course, direct link with a commission member. And then either 4 or 6 other appointees determined by the Board of Commissioners, not myself, but part of the reason we're looking at going to a Department of Veterans Affairs, but need all the input we can from our veterans, is to address some of the issues that have been, that some of you have touched upon this afternoon. And then also to make Bay County eligible for more federal and state assistance for our veteran services. We would qualify for grants that we currently don't qualify for. But I know the concerns, and that's part of the reason that this proposal is being considered and moving forward. But we do want to be cautious not to make any inadvertent mistakes in the role that this new department will play.
I'd like to respond. I think, again, Frank and Tom Brady had done a wonderful job in taking over from what Bruce had started, and Connie and Derek really represent the best in the drivers. But before I resigned from Soldier Sailors here a month or a couple months ago, we were having some input meetings, and a lot of information came to the three of us who were on the commission at the time that we weren't aware of because we weren't intricately involved in the program. But one of the things I think bears noting is remuneration, because all of a sudden it was taking a volunteer program to, we need to pay a coordinator, we need to pay the drivers, and so on and so forth. And I'm not opposed to that by any means, because there is a lot of time and effort put into this, but then it doesn't become a volunteer program. So I think, again, we need to step back, and while the effort to create a new Department of Veterans Affairs is laudable, it's those little programs that have been operating kind of independent. We need to bring that information together to create something that's going to be fair, equitable, and continue to serve the veterans. As far as shutting the program down, I wasn't at that meeting. I'm not aware of that. I think it would be very difficult. But again, there are some options and alternatives if we can't continue the program as it has been in the past.
I gotta, man, excuse me, I'm grunting and grunting. I understand what Keith was saying about let's slow down and, you know, one step at a time. However, let's get the thing created and start going forward. How do I, dragging your feet, this sounds like what's that, the Washington, D.C., the budget committee, where, I'm not the budget committee, where they kick the can down the road and do another continuing resolution. 2 more weeks, let's do another continuing resolution. No, this isn't Washington, D.C. We're real people here. At least I hope we are. Let's get the commission created and let's move forward. My opinion. Thank you.
I started this van program with my own personal vehicle. Never took a cent out of it all these years. And now it's up to it's transporting $150 to $200 a month. And then drivers ain't paid a penny. And they gladly do it for this county. The county's got to look forward. Just like the homeless shelter that we got. It didn't cost the county 1 penny. It's all been donation. We got homeless vets living in it now. But you people ain't looking forward. You're not going out and seeing what's in the community. I'm trying to get these veterans off the street, but that's not happening. I'm not getting no support from any of the county or the city. We're doing it all on our own. I donated my building to run a veterans rummage shop, and all the money goes to that homeless shelter. Home Depot has been really good to us. They donated a lot of stuff to it to help it. So the community wants it, but it seems like none of the officers that run this county or this city do anything to help us. Think about who's out there doing the things. and look forward with us. Don't turn their back on us. And that's what they're doing. They're turning their back on us.
Anyone else like to step forward? Seeing no one, I'd like to thank everyone who stepped forward and everyone who showed up here to have, just by being here, your input is noted. And everyone who spoke, we always say, it always takes a lot to come up in front of the podium and speak in front of the cameras, as Mr. Barsha was saying, and you all did a wonderful job, and everything you said is noted. Now, anyone who's interested in serving on the Veterans Affairs Board can fill out an application online on the Board of Commissioners webpage, or you can pick up an application in the board office or the county executive office. So on the webpage, you can fill it out online, or else you can get a paper application either from the office over here or the county executive office if there's nobody in this office. So they'll all be available for you. They're available now because people are filling them out already. So just note that, and we'll expect a few applications. Anyone else? Because you guys, gentlemen, have anything to say about this? All set? So, yeah, we need a motion to go back to regular order of business, please.
So moved.
Or all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next will be Chris Pinter, the Chief Executive Officer of the Bay-Arenac Behavioral Health Authority, on the update on substance use disorder services and Public Act 2 funding for Bay County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you have a carry forward item from the Ways and Means Committee that'll be coming up later in your agenda. It's the intergovernmental contract for establishing a substance abuse oversight policy board. And I just wanted to give you the refresher for the commissioners, a little bit of background. Under the state law, Bay County receives proceeds from the liquor tax sales in Bay County. And under the law, you're supposed to use half of those roughly for substance abuse treatment and prevention. It used to be, years ago, Congressman Barshall will remember this, it was just for alcohol treatment prevention because it was liquor money, so therefore you use it for treating alcohol, right? But a few years ago it was changed to where you can use it for any substance abuse condition. So you can use it for opiates, you can use it for marijuana, you can use it for heroin, you can use it for anything. So since about 2016, the county has had an agreement with Mid-State Health Network, which is the 21 county gigantic health plan that I came to the county and complained about probably more than praised the last 5 years. That was created by 12 county mental health programs, including Bay-Arenac. And they've administered the PA2 money that you've given to them based on the liquor tax receipts, and they've provided substance abuse services in Bay County. So that agreement sunsets at the end of December. It was a 3-year agreement. You signed the original back in 15, so this is 18, so it's ending. We're recommending that you execute a renewal agreement essentially with Mid-State. And I believe this was provided to you directly from Mid-State maybe a few weeks ago. I don't want to say it's a easy agreement and you shouldn't worry about it, but I will point out that it's exactly what's in the law, which you have to do now anyway in terms of providing those receipts to, for substance abuse. If you don't, Treasury will send you, well, 6 to 9 months from now, we'll send you a note saying, hey, you're not providing that money. Everything that Mid-State has in this agreement matches exactly to PA 500 of 2012, which was the change that merged all the old county agencies into from 18 to 10, because you used to send the PA2 money to us for about 15 years. We received it and administered it on your behalf. So it's all required under that law. I don't know why you need a contract if the law says you have to do it. That kind of would supersede a contract. But in the law, it says they're supposed to have a contract with each of the counties to receive the money. So this is kind of the purpose of this contract, is just to carry that out. The other thing I would point out is that you have a 30-day notice for any reason. So, for example, when we have the new administration in place, and at some point they say, well, why doesn't these counties and I'm talking totally hypothetically here, why don't these counties just administer the PA2 money through their county mental health programs? That kind of makes sense. They serve substance abuse, mental health, disabilities. If that happens and there's an opening to do something different and this county wants to do that, you'll have under the existing agreement, if you approve it, you'd have a 30-day notice requirement where you can make changes. So I don't think you're committing to anything other than your current obligations under the law, so I'd recommend you consider it.
That's it? Commissioner Begay.
Support.
Commissioner Begay.
Just a question, Mr. Pinter, have you heard any rumblings of what might be coming down the road with the new administration?
Without getting too far off the reservation, the new administration, I believe, will support the Medicaid expansion. That was a big issue in the election. It actually hurt Lieutenant Governor Calley in his primary that Governor Snyder had supported that on the autism and helped his opponent, but in the general election it helped the Democrat. So kind of interesting how that plays out. We haven't heard anything, nothing about names. I feel pretty confident that the new governor has a history of working with the legislature. Our last two governors had not ever spent time in the legislature. So this governor will, like Governor Engler had, so maybe there'll be a little, hopefully more conversation and compromise and things like that. We can always be hopeful.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, Commissioner, Mr.
Just one
Garcia.
comment, Chris, you're doing a great job. We appreciate your leadership for mental health services in both Bay and Arenac counties. And I wanted to mention, before you step away from the podium, you know, when I was in Washington, it was amazing, the amount of federal programs that were available in the District of Columbia, and yet on every weekend during the cold months and in the summers too, a very high number of homeless vets and homeless people in general who are dispersed throughout Capitol Hill, laying in the winter months on top of grates, you know, for the heat and things. And it seemed like a lot of those people, it was determined, had emotional, mental issues that they needed to work through. They did have family that they could stay with, or they had programs they could access, but they seem to be focused totally on independence. And so have you seen, Chris, you know, a prevalence of individuals in our community? Since we don't have a lot of people, I don't see sleeping on the streets, but I nonetheless believe we have a lot of homeless people here, and particularly our vets population. Do you have a way to communicate with some of those people to help get them into the rescue mission or different alternatives?
We have a pretty good relationship with the rescue mission. One of the things that our mental health board has supported us doing over the years is there's some money that comes available. There's prohibitions with Medicaid on paying for housing. It's always been in place since Medicaid in '65. They were afraid that the states would start just putting people up in apartments and drawing all this federal money, and there's certain things you can pay for, but you can't pay for the room and board with Medicaid. So that always creates a barrier for people who don't want other services. The people that you're talking about that are independent, have a disability, really don't want anybody to be in their business, but need some kind of support. And what we've done over the years is we've hung on to these state grants, these housing grants. It's the Shelter Plus. The board, I'm looking at our board members who know because it comes up. These grants are difficult to administer because there's a lot of federal rules. It's all through the Federal Housing Authority. But we do use those. We have about 22 in Bay County that we have used and used for transient, homeless, sometimes veterans, sometimes people with other issues. They have a lot of freedom. We can use, because we basically are the landlord and we're subleasing it to them. But that's non-Medicaid, so so that's kind of how we try to help fill that gap in Bay County. It's not perfect. The commissioners probably get tired of me complaining about it because it's not the best funded, but it does serve a need, and that's what we do, and we do it in Arenac County as well.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have Information Systems, a presentation of Countywide Independent Security Audit by MGT.
Hi, good good afternoon, everybody. I have with me Tony Martinez. He is the VP of Cybersecurity and the CTO at MGT.
Will you load this?
The presentation that we had sent out, I believe yesterday morning, there was just a couple typos and a few things added, so if you want a copy, we can send that as well.
Very good. Good afternoon, everyone. As Julie mentioned, can you hear me? Yes? Very good. My name is Tony Martinez. I run the cybersecurity services practice for MGT. Before we get into the actual presentation, I do want to highlight the journey that we've been on for the better part of this year. Under Julie's leadership, the IT team has taken to heart bringing cybersecurity up to speed and making it a core competency for the county. So I do commend Julie, her leadership, as well as her team and some of the members that are here as well. What I want to do today is take you, do you want to turn that around? Oh, at any rate. What I want to do is highlight some aspects of the pre-assessment environment, give you an idea of why this originated, go through some of the findings that we came across. Also highlight all the great things that have been going on for about 8 months now and continue to happen as we speak and into the future. And I also, before I get into this, and I know I'm on live TV and at the risk of maybe shaking other counties, it is refreshing to see the commitment that the county has put behind information security and cybersecurity. We do assessments with tens of counties, specifically in Michigan, and it is a steep uphill battle to drive importance to this topic. So it is refreshing to see and much appreciated as an information security professional myself. I thank you for that. So a little bit of background here. The last time that an assessment was done at the county level was around 5 years ago. And highlighting a little bit the classic story within IT, resources are limited for a department that literally touches every aspect of county operations in the background. It is very intangible in nature, and cybersecurity is intangible beyond regular IT operations. We can see computers here and internet running, which we can all kind of chew onto, but cybersecurity is something that is in the background, and not a lot of people realizing and stop to think of the controls that are in place to make this a safe environment. The initial security assessment itself was triggered by a mandate that was imposed on the friend of the court and prosecuting attorney's office by the Office of Child Support at the state level. And in speaking with Julie, we expanded that scope and benefited from some economies of scale to really look at the entire county information system. I do want to highlight that the current state of the IT environment is very mature. The services are very mature. The architecture is what it should be. It is a sophisticated network, not something that we see in every county, your profile. So very good job on that end. And then in the last 3 years, without getting into too many technicalities, things like firewalls and VPN access, and again, these are critical services that live in the background that make using your network safe, and this trickles down all the way to the citizens. Some high-level highlights to discuss here and to kind of bring to your attention. One of the challenges that IT had was limited visibility into network weaknesses on an ongoing basis. We also found that there's challenges to understand malicious traffic in a timely manner. So if you guys hear of cyber attacks going on in the news, one critical component is speed to detect. the average hacker is in a system 2 to 3 months before it's detected. So it's a common issue to deal with, and it is a limitation. Like many aspects of IT, there were limited resources in terms of policies and procedures. So these are all the supporting documentation that goes around building a program for information security. Without those policies and procedures and keeping them up to date, it's hard to really grow that across the county itself. And especially in cybersecurity, it is everyone's responsibility. Everyone that's clicking on an email link or going to a website on a county computer is responsible for what happens there, which is somewhat unique. We also found something that around password management. Weak passwords in general, it is the biggest kind of thorn on everyone's side in terms of password management, myself included. We all have too many passwords to deal with, and what happens is reuse of passwords, oversimplified passwords, which lead to compromised credentials, which can lead to a disaster. I do want to highlight what information security and cybersecurity means to the county, and a lot of them are very obvious, but I did want to explicitly mention them. So at the very core of it, we want to protect the data that you hold and the data repositories where that data is living, databases, third-party applications where you have maybe healthcare information, citizen data. We want to protect county employees. We want to protect a lot of the folks in this room from basic things like identity theft. Obviously, we want to ensure the safety of the citizens through critical services that the county provides, as well as citizen data, which the county holds. One thing that is overlooked a lot is becoming a conduit to an attack. If a county employee is compromised, they can be a vehicle to attack a third party without knowing it. So this is just one added aspect of security there. There are potential financial repercussions, of course, which are what we see in the news, and the repercussions to reputation obviously are always front and center as well. We want to make sure that all the constituents feel safe in terms of cybersecurity in the county. So moving on to the current state and a little bit on the things that we've done. We conducted that information security assessment, which was part of the baseline exercises, and I'll go into what kind of those core aspects of that assessment entailed. We were involved in heavy remediation work with Julie and her team, dealing with vulnerabilities, dealing with areas of opportunity, and elevating the security posture of the county to an acceptable baseline. From an operations standpoint, there's been some implementations as well to further mature the overall security posture. And then as we move forward, we're kind of transitioning into a second phase where a long-term risk management plan is being put into effect. And like any discipline in any organization or in any government organization, it requires strategy, it requires a plan, it requires ownership and long-term vision to execute. Cybersecurity has become an afterthought in many senses across many organizations, and we're in the process of making that a core competency and disseminating what cybersecurity and information security means across other organizations, such as the front of the court or prosecuting attorneys' offices. I've already mentioned this. The goal, obviously, is a hardened security posture, making sure that the critical assets to the county, its employees, and all the constituents that you serve are protected, and we don't become a story on the news. Key work areas for the assessment included, we took a pretty deep dive into managerial operation and technical security controls. We did physical security reviews of the entire county. We interviewed department heads across the agency, and we really took a long time to understand how they manage data, what their day-to-day activities mean, versus what we think could be happening. We also interviewed some individual contributors. We wanted to truly understand how that data management happened at different levels of the county. We also took a deep dive into policies and procedures, everything from password management to how you respond to an incident, a cyber incident, and some more boring stuff like how you authenticate users and how privileges kind of live in the background. And we also did a full penetration test on the county. So we have a team of ethical hackers who, under a control environment, pried the network with the goal of finding vulnerabilities and then working with Julie's team to fix them. It is a collaborative process, and it is an uncomfortable process in nature, obviously, but we were able to really make it a constructive exercise, and everyone learned a lot from it. We came out much better. As I mentioned earlier, the maturity of the environment is quite optimal. We did find some areas of opportunity, and it's more on the enhancements and kind of evolution of policies and procedures when it comes to data governance. 3 highlights are incident response, how you all respond to an incident in case a large amount of records were compromised. How do we deal with that? If there is an outage that is the result of an attack on a critical infrastructure, how do we deal with that? Access management, how folks are able to access privileged areas of the network that may lead to critical data repositories or critical services on emergency management, for example. And then again, that password management, we did find a lot of weak passwords around the county, and we proceeded to work to change that. And again, this is the first evolution. There's a change management component that is required, and everyone's cooperation is needed to really make information security a core competency across all departments. So we look forward to that. And then the other big enhancement is on the network security and operations. There's new vulnerabilities being discovered every single day, every single hour. There's companies that have threat intelligence teams out there that are discovering new ways to break into systems. So it's not a set it and forget it discipline, unfortunately. We need to stay on top of what we call patch management. It's how we continue to patch the network to address these vulnerabilities. And then the last piece that really contributes to helping mitigate attacks is the ability to monitor the network on an ongoing basis. So that's definitely a control that you want to have in place to, if something happens, or as detailed as is an employee installing something that they should not be installing, we want that visibility into that. In terms of some of the remediation work that we did, we addressed all important network vulnerabilities that were found through the penetration test. So those have been successfully remediated. Policy procedure enhancement, Julie and her team have been actively working on these 3 policies along a series of others, and we have more detailed reports in terms of the assessment, the penetration test, and what's been done, which are available at your discretion, but they're boring in nature to the naked eye. The last piece I do want to highlight is the ability to to monitor your network 24/7 at this point, 365 through a security operations center. So if there's an employee that is not doing what they should do, or there is an attack from a .cn China domain or Russia domain, we're able to see that, and that's escalated to Julie's team in a live manner. And please feel free to interrupt me as we move through it. Yes.
That was a question I was going to ask. Because there's a cyber war, global cyber war right now. Are you able to determine, you mentioned China, you mentioned Russia. Are you able to determine who is attempting to get into one's network, or are you working collaboratively with the rest of the U.S. to try to strengthen our protections so this doesn't happen?
Right, so from a monitoring standpoint, we're able to drill down to the specific IP or network device that is being attacked in any given scenario. In terms of who the attacker is, we have a destination URL. These are typically masked, but we can see if they're coming from potential adversarial or adversaries such as China or Russia. So there is an automatic trigger when there's traffic coming from certain spaces. And the way that this is done is through threat intelligence services. So we share threat intel feeds that are everyone from Cisco to there's over 10 threat intel feeds that are actively being updated. So it is kind of a community effect in the background in terms of sharing resources as to how to stay protected. But we can get very detailed information as to what attack is happening, and shut down a specific computer if that's where the infection is happening. And the tool that's being used can produce reports, incident reports, et cetera, as needed, of course. And that is part of an audit trail that happens. Any other questions? Very good. Again, emphasize that information security, cybersecurity is an ongoing process. It is a living and breathing industry, and new vulnerabilities are being found. It is a very people and process heavy discipline. It's not only technology, it involves everyone in the county getting trained, everyone being aware that they don't click on that phishing email that we all see on a weekly basis. So some critical steps that have been put into place are enhancing that training and awareness component, hard and password management, making sure the county employees are using hard passwords, and enforcing that to the best of our ability. And again, it's not, we want to get away from enforcement and want to make people understand that it's up to them, it's their responsibility as well, which goes into enhancing county buy-in. You are light years away, and if that can be edited from other counties near here in terms of the buy-in and information security. So that is very refreshing to see. Again, if IT is intangible to folks outside of IT, cybersecurity is that much more intangible. You never see it unless you get your phishing emails or things like that you can chew into. So it's very much in the background. And then the last thing is, to my point on creating a discipline and a program out of it, is a focus on creating a roadmap for risk management. How do you deal with information security as a county long-term? How do you take your current security posture, continue to stay up to date in terms of new vulnerabilities, as well as how to enhance potential areas of opportunity to protect your data and protect yourselves? One key component, this first piece, strategic and proactive versus reactive, is exactly what I've been talking about. Security has been historically a reactive discipline. You get an attack, how do you respond to attack? But we want to get to a no news scenario, which means that there's no issues going on. So a focus on staying strategic and proactive. Compliance is something that you're always going to have to live by. You'll know things like HIPAA, maybe PCI, CGIS. The FOC and PA assessment had to do with federal tax information protection, which is governed by IRS Publication 1075. And I'll leave it at that to not get too geeky. And then a focus on planning first, strategy first, and spending later. Cybersecurity has been plagued and littered with huge pockets from hardware and software vendors that push big solutions that promise full security without any planning or supervision. And a year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe even 5 years later, it ends up hurting everybody, because you can put any tool in place. If it's not managed correctly, it can be rendered useless with a click of a phishing email or going to a bad site. I do want to touch very briefly on what triggered all of these activities, which is the FOC and PA assessment recap. By all purposes, they both pass in terms of the controls that they have in place. They are compliant with the 3 standards that we were looking at, and overall, along with the policy enhancements and the monitoring that has been put in place, we can say that at the point in time, they are compliant. They have an acceptable security posture. I do want to highlight again that we are putting controls in place to continuously do vulnerability scans and make sure that the network is addressing new risks that are identified out there. But overall, we're very pleased with the results of the assessment. That being said, any questions? Yes?
Sounds like we're further ahead than Equifax, which I heard today has some of the most antiquated systems in the world that are going to get fined for it now too, but, which they should be.
And that's only what's out in the news, unfortunately. Yeah. And then I don't know if any of you are Marriott guys, but Marriott was compromised for what they say is only 500 million records, which is probably a fraction of it. And that's only what makes the news.
They said that was 3-4 months out, that reach was there before several months.
As I mentioned, their Target was the same thing. And I'll bring Target up because it's a large environment or a different environment, kind of like a county would be. The vulnerability happened through a smart Internet of Things AC system. And they went in through the AC system and then moved laterally into the network. So an attacker can come in through something as ubiquitous as a HVAC system that's connected to the network, which now everything is connected to the network.
Commissioner Durancheck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tony, we've received emails and a presentation that you presented to us, and one of the comments I thought was, at the top of your list was to Julie was to make her shine, and I thought that was not really appropriate. We know we have the right person in there, and I have some issues with, as several other commissioners do, with audio and the cameras. Has that been addressed and looked into, and who has access to this information on our network?
It's actually separate from Tony, and that has been addressed. And we've actually worked with the vendor, and that has been shut off.
Okay.
So that is actually separate from what Tony has done.
But in his security, in the study or whatever, it was not looked into, or was it because it was already addressed?
At the time of the assessment, his assessment did a little bit different than what the actual camera security was. It was essentially at the same time going on. So they were running parallel to one another.
And if I may speak to the comment on making Julie and the IT team shine, we do these presentations a lot to non-IT leadership, precisely because of, I did make reference to the fact that information security, cybersecurity is in many ways a layer under IT, and we live under the paradigm of, well, if there's no news coming from IT, what could they be doing? Which in fact means that they're doing a lot of things to make sure that there's no news. It's difficult to articulate a technical discipline, and our goal is to ensure to insider third parties such as yourselves that are affected by this assessment, that in fact there is a mature environment, that things are being done well, and there is documentation to support that if anyone obviously wants to take a deep dive. But that was the goal of that comment.
Motion to receive.
Commissioner Lutz.
Yeah, in the county we have lots of software being used. I mean, lots. So was your audit totally inclusive of all that and its interaction between that as a whole county, or
we don't take
only look at parts of it?
We don't take a dive into the actual platforms themselves. That would be a separate scope. There's a discipline around third-party vendor management, which is a big thing with cloud security. Everyone's moving to the cloud. And departments are buying software in a decentralized fashion, and sometimes you don't have line of visibility into what data is in there. But we do look at how those interact with the county as it enters the perimeter of the county.
Can you find out if any of that is more vulnerable to attack, which would then?
Yeah, I mean, if there were if the implementation was done in an unsecure way, we would have flagged that. What we haven't flagged is if a software that has been purchased is in fact taking security into their own hands in terms of web application security. So if you had a customer relationship management tool, for example, to give you an easy solution, are they doing penetration tests? Are they doing risk assessments? So we do see this more and more. Vendors are being asked security questionnaires before they are purchased, precisely to make sure that they're taking security seriously as well, because that has been a big blind spot as we move to the cloud, right? But yeah, it is a problem for a lot of both private sector and public sector. Absolutely.
Commissioner Krieger.
If you could, someone can refresh my memory. So did we enter into a contract with your organization, and what was the fee?
We did. We have a contract with you. I think the total cost of the risk assessment was $46,000.
Last month, a resolution was passed for continuous monitoring. So what this does is, and we've had a demo system running on that network for several months now. And within 2 days of setting up the sensor, we learned that somebody in another department, someone in the county, had gotten malware on their computer. And so that, that right away was, oh, well, this is something that we really need to do. And there are other counties and there are other municipalities that are doing continuous monitoring. So to answer the question, will we know that someone has clicked on a phishing email? Will we know that they've been going to a malicious website? We're notified almost immediately that that happens. And so the cost is around $25,000 for to do continuous monitoring. Compared to other companies who had a quote was $50,000. So.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I know the importance of cybersecurity. I mean, I get around to the Career Center, and last year was the first year they started a program specific to cybersecurity to go around. That's the third leg of their computer programming thing that they do, but they started that last year, and they participate in contests, statewide, nationwide cybersecurity, and the importance of it in today's world. So. I get that part. I don't understand it very well, but I know it's useful.
Right, and part of my reason being here is to kind of communicate the tangible kind of wins that have been achieved through this long-term program.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to receive.
Support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up will be our own Joel Strauss, the Director's Award from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services to the Bay County Health Department. Please explain, sir. That's a beautiful looking trophy, I done.
We kind of won the Stanley Cup. I want to take the next hour? No. I just have a few words to say. In case you don't know what this strange apparatus is, this is the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, for the time being, Director's Award. It's the highest award that goes out to any health department in the state of Michigan. And the award was established in 1983. It's presented to local health departments in recognition of excellence in public health. The award was announced this year at the Michigan Premier Public Health Conference in Bay City on October 10th. And this year's award recognizes local health departments that are using innovative approaches to improve health, well-being, and equity in their communities. Specifically, we were awarded the Director's Award for our work in establishing and some of the outcomes that we've derived through the Bay Community Health Clinic. This is a great example of our innovation and providing leadership on important health matters, and it puts Bay County in the forefront among health departments in the nation that are taking new and groundbreaking approaches towards promoting health to its local citizens. But more importantly, the award reflects the hard work and dedication of all the health department staff. So I want to take a few minutes for some thank yous. Number one, thanks to the Board of Commissioners here, to our County Executive, Jim Barsha, for all their support in the years that we've had the clinic established. We'd also like to thank Saginaw Valley State University and Bay-Arenac Behavioral Health. They are our partners at the clinic. But I want to spend a few minutes to recognize some key staff. Number one is Chris Chesney. She's a nurse practitioner, but with her hard work and experience and her leadership was essential in transforming clinical operations in 2017 and 2018. I want to thank Kathleen Janer, our nursing services manager, who's essential in working with all the clinical staff and ensuring that we bridge our work both clinically and programmatically. Joel Kikowski, our environmental health manager. Joel works very diligently and very hard and very closely with others in the county and our county partners to make our environmental health programs a success. And you will hear more from him, I'm sure, in the coming year with the innovative mapping grant that he has just started. It is a program that is unlike anything else in the United States. Amy Rivette is our WIC manager, and I want to thank her for all her hard work and her dedication, which has made Bay County WIC program highly recognized throughout the state, and Amy works very diligently to ensure that we work together programmatically. Melissa Millette, our emergency preparedness and health education manager. She's the reason why we don't have major outbreaks here in Bay County. And under her coordination in the last week, we successfully underwent accreditation with only 3 indicators not met out of 200, and I believe a dozen indicators where we were recognized for excellence. And then finally, I want to thank Mark Bacall, our business services manager. He keeps our fiscal house in order. He was essential to the development and implementation of the clinic, and Mark and his staff truly do not get enough credit for everything that they do every day at the health department and at the clinic. So once again, on the behalf of the staff of the Bay County Health Department, I want to share this award with you and thank you for all your support.
Mr. Barsha.
Yes, Director Strauss, and to all of the staff who are here today, as well as all of the staff who couldn't be at the board meeting tonight, I want to express, I'm sure some commissioners will as well, my deep appreciation and gratitude for the leadership that you provided, all of you as a team, and you as the director and your lieutenants who are with you today, as well as all the staff who are working diligently day after day to try to achieve better health outcomes for all of Bay County residents. And also compliment you, Joel, for, and I know it started before my time, but the amazing leadership you showed in collaborating with Saginaw Valley State University, my alma mater, to create a unique health clinic that provides access to primary health care to a large number of our underinsured population here in Bay County. And I know I hear regularly about the help, the very, very important help that you provide our fellow residents with their health challenges and issues. I know how hard the staff works, and this recognition of Bay County being in the forefront, thinking innovation and delivering health care to the public is well-deserved and most likely probably overdue. But we'll take it this year, right? That's quite a traveling award that you have there, as well as the permanent award that will be displayed, I'm sure, hopefully prominently somewhere in the in the health department, but again, thank you for all you've accomplished, and as we look forward to the next 2-year session, hopefully we'll be able to see even greater things happening as you've alluded to. So thank you, Joel.
Thank
and
you.
all of you for the dedication you've shown, throughout your tenure with Bay County.
You need to step through for a picture.
Okay.
Yeah, you getting them too? You want? You could be in there. You should.
Brought the photogenic side, right?
Come on, Kathy, a little smile out. Get out from Melissa, there we go.
It's like the Super Bowl of health department,
That's very heavy, by the way. He's like.
Oh, yeah. And you take that to bed. You take that to when you go to sleep at night.
Yeah, he probably gets a ring.
All righty. Moving on. Huh? You want one? Do we need a motion to receive?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have requests for appointment to the Bay County Division on Aging Advisory Committee. We have Kathleen Sutton in the 2nd District, Mike Oak in the 4th District, Mary Downey in the 6th District, and Robert Anderson at large. Need a motion to receive?
So moved.
Support.
We need another motion for that, right? No, and also a motion to confirm. She said she wants it now.
So moved.
Is this the same one? Putting it in the same?
One in the same?
One?
Yeah, one in the same.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And as they say, moving on, reports and resolutions of committees from the Ways and Means Committee, Commissioner Lutz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I bring in Resolution 2018-274. It's the intergovernmental contract for establishment of substance use disorder oversight policy board for 2019 to 22 from behavioral health, which was referenced earlier today. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2018-275. It's the DNR project agreement amendments from the recreation and facilities. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2018-276. It's the renewal of property and liability insurance with MMRMA. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Commissioner Lutz.
We have an addition that we wanted to add to that, correct?
Correct. The issue had been brought up previously about whether or not we wanted to add insurance coverage for sewer backup. I have spoken with the MMRMA representative. He's informed me that this coverage would apply to all of the storm drains in Bay County. It is not specific to every drainage district, because really what we're covering is the liability that the county would incur on behalf of decisions made by its elected official, the drain commissioner. And therefore, since the drain commissioner can make determinations as to whether or not to maintain any specific drain on his own, it's his decision on what maintenance to do that would be covered by the policy. The policy amount would be a maximum of $500,000 and $150,000 at SIR, which is a self-insured retention. So you would be looking at coverage amount of approximately $350,000 for events that occur due to sewer backup. And the statute now defines sewer backup as backup that is also caused due to storm water backup as well. So it is up to the board whether or not the board wants to spend that additional, it's approximately $13,200 to add that additional sewer backup coverage to the policy.
I amend my motion to add that.
Support. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2018-277, 2019 County Veteran Service Fund Grant from Administrative Services. I believe that one was for $25,000. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2018-274, it's 2019 Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency County Incentive Grant from Administrative Services, and I believe that was $5,000. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2018-279, it's the 2019-2020 aerial application contract from Gypsy Moth Program. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2018-280. It's the payables, the general fund, and bayonet. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2018-281. Budget adjustments from the Health Department and Animal Control and Golf Course. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2018-282. It's the 2019 budgeted maintenance expenses information systems. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is Resolution 2018-283. It's the 2019 Bay County budget. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, what was left off Ways and Means was, that was approved last week, was Resolution 2018-242, which was the Bay County Sheriff brought forth the Poole Township's road patrol services for the 60/40 effective this year, and I'd like to move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that's all I have from Ways and Means.
Thank you, Commissioner Luss. From the Personnel and Human Services, Commissioner Ryder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have before you Resolution 2018-284, Fair Board Lease for 2019 through 2021. I will move that forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2018-285, Child Support Specialist vacancy. I will move that forward.
So moved. Or support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2018-286, agreement with Michigan Psychological Associates. I will move that resolution forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2018-287, nurse practitioner agreements, 6 for the health department. I will move that forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And Resolution 2018-288, agreement with MCEITA and MPHI from the health department. I'll move that forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And Resolution 2018-289, acceptance of Bay Area Community of Mindful Living donation. I will move that forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 2018-290, vacancies, new positions in Department on Aging, Personnel, Community Corrections Program, and Juvenile Home. I will move that forward.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all we have before you today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryder. And from the Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Durancheck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution 2018-291, reports of the county executive. Motion to receive.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And now reports of officials and departments, county executive. Let's-
Mr. Chairman, the vote that just occurred, was that the adoption of the 2019 budget? A few items going. Well, I guess I just want to make some statements about the budget and the process. I'd just like to say, while I am pleased that a final version of the budget has been adopted with the reinstatement of, I believe, some, although not all, of the road patrol deputy positions recommended in the county executive's proposed budget, I feel compelled to express my disappointment in the document as a whole, as well as the end stage process, or really the failure to follow the budget schedule approved by the board in March 2018. Administration, in conjunction with the board, strove to make this budget process more transparent and interactive than in the past. Department directors met with board members to engage in deliberative, constructive conversations about the budgetary needs of each department throughout the year. This has, I believe, led to a better understanding by the board members of the inner workings and monetary challenges of each department and the county as a whole. These are all positive improvements, to be sure. However, I also believe that budget should better reflect the values of the community that is funding it. Over my nearly 2 years in office, an area of concern and importance communicated to me by our constituents is the continued improvement of our animal control shelter. I'm very pleased that we have managed to implement positive changes at animal control since the beginning of my term as county executive. We are very, very close to achieving the coveted status of a no-kill shelter. And we have adopted a set of best practices to further improve our facility. However, simply adopting best practices is not enough. If the board is unwilling to fund the positions necessary to actually implement those best practices, the substantial hours and effort spent by county employees to research and create those best practices are for naught. I am disappointed that the board has chosen not to fund either the part-time position requested or the request to convert the part-time animal control manager to a full-time position, as it once was, just a few years back. I am hopeful that the board will reconsider this position and work with me at the beginning of the new year to add this much-needed support for animal control through the budget adjustment process. I'm also somewhat disheartened that we are once again adopting this final version of our budget at the 11th hour with only 1 week for administration as well as individual board members to review and approve a budget exceeding $139 million. The county executive proposed and this board approved an accelerated budget calendar that, had it been followed, would have allowed my office as well as the individual board members more than 2 months to digest and fine-tune the areas of the budget that raised concerns. The county executive's budget was submitted to the board for its consideration on Tuesday, August 14th, and had the schedule been followed, would have been up for public hearing as early as October 9th, 2018, over 2 months ago. It is my sincere hope that all parties involved will make a concerted effort to conform to our self-imposed and adopted timelines and schedules during the next budget process. And I thank those for their work on this 2019 budget. It is balanced, and while I'm not entirely pleased with everything, it represents a work product, and we're grateful for that. But hopefully next year we can do even better if we engage in trying to stick to our established budget process that the board did approve. So with that, I just want to make that statement about the budget, and I'll be signing it, but looking forward to hopefully revisiting an issue or two in the months ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished business? Well, we have some new business, but any other? So new business. We have these requests received after the Ways and Means meeting. We have the Department on Aging. We have the acceptance of a $250 donation from Christopher and Susan Moss, resolution number 2018-292. Someone want to move that?
So moved.
Support.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have the acceptance of a $555 donation from the employees of the Consumers Energy Bay-Arenac plant, resolution number 2018-293.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And from the Health Department, we have a LARA grant application for medical marijuana education and outreach, resolution number 2018-294.
So moved.
Support. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other new business? Commissioner Lutz.
Mr. Chairman, through our budget process, we went ahead and had some lengthy discussion on whether we need some additional road patrol out there. I'm going to bring forth the motion, and we can go and have some more discussion about it. I move to adjust the 2019 budget, which we just approved, to include the addition of 2 full-time secondary road patrol officers in the amount of $128,212. Other funding sources to cover $44,600 of the cost, and the general fund, the fund balance to cover the remaining cost of $83,612. And to approve all the related budget adjustments as recorded.
Support.
Discussion. Commissioner Coonan.
I think we spoke last week on this. I can support one additional because I believe there's some funding for it. The second one, there is no funding for it, so I can't support that. So where I come from and the folks that I do represent, I think the sheriff gave me some information on deputies and such, well, the city of Bay City has 56 officers that the residents in Bay City pay for public service. I think the city pays about 19 mils to operate, and most of that goes for police and, well, it's all combined now, police and fire. A lot of these townships pay 1 mil, 1.5 mil, 2 mil. And I think I want our officers to be as safe as they can be. I want people to have as much patrol as they want, but nobody sat down with the out county. I'm not talking about in the city. Nobody sat down with the out county and talked to them and said, what do you need? What would you like? I think that needs to be done first and find out what they need and what they want to pay for. I don't think it's fair to have the folks within the city and Bangor, which I represent half of Bangor as well, and on here, Bangor, they have, where is that? They have a number of, they have a number of officers that they pay for as well. So to ask the constituents in Bangor and in the city to pay more for patrol outside of their jurisdiction, I don't think it's fair. I think, you know, we got time after the first of the year to sit down and bring those folks in here and let's find out exactly what they need. Let's explain to them. There are no free lunches. You cannot ask somebody else to pay for some benefit that somebody else is receiving when they pay right now a tremendous amount of taxes to fund their public service. So I'm not going to support, I could support one, but I can't support two. Because I believe we've got some funding for one additional, or we have close funding for one additional.
We're close. We expected a phone call from the Friends of the Court. My request to the Friends of the Court was to pick up 100% of the warrant officer. We'll wait to see if that's allowed through the state. But we've identified the $20,000 that the Assistant Superintendent of Kane County Schools told me that they would put towards theirs. We have
We believe we'll get some of the marijuana money, but it's going to be real late in 2019. And the only reason that we aren't getting it all not until 20 is because they're going to give priority to existing businesses. Like we have 2 licensed in the county. So by the end of 2019, we should have some funding for that. Otherwise, we'll have to make a budget adjustment. But we should know by tomorrow from the state and feds if they'll pick up the extra third of that warrant deputy. They're paying 2/3 now. That would give us another $24,658. That would complete the funding for the second deputy, because we put 1 in the budget. And this would be 2 new ones. And then if we can wait a while, then maybe we can see just how fast the state's moving and maybe be able to come up with the funding for a third.
I think
also I was told the monitor doesn't, they have 2 people, but it's on first shift, and I think we ought to approach them to at least put 1 of them on a night shift. But I don't know if the sheriff has talked to him or not.
What was that about? I'm sorry.
It was my understanding that the monitor had both theirs during the day.
Right, yeah. I think what we're missing on some of this is the townships aren't coming to us asking for more patrol. Maybe they got confusing before. This is something of the general. This is something like looking at the MCOL's numbers, we're going back from 01 coming forward and seeing that we're down, we had 42 and 40 deputies. It's something that we had, I'm not sure where they went. We had more general positions. So the townships aren't requesting, they understand that if they want more patrol, they're paying for it. Just like all the townships are. I think the only 3 we have is Gibson, Mount Forest, and Garfield right now that aren't. But all the other townships are. Monitor has 2. With the 12-hour shifts, they're working days. If I take those township cars and put them on nights, I don't have anybody to bring to days. Our night shifts are running with 2 general cars. So, it's just like if you own a business and you hire somebody to do security at it, if there's a problem somewhere else, that guy you're paying for to protect your building, he's not going over there. Those are the additional ones they're using with the townships. Where we're lacking is just the generals, and they're not new positions. These are positions that we've had. We just, somehow through the years, I guess they haven't come back. It wasn't like it was grant funded or something, and we're seeing that. We're just seeing with 2 guys at night, it's light. And on the day shift, the opposite is we have 1 car on each rotation, one of which is the 60-40 pooled car. So there's nowhere to go. Like today with a bad crash up north, that 1 car that's a 60-40 that's a general is up there. The townships still have theirs in them, but there's nobody else to go anywhere. And those generals, if there's a problem in any of the townships, they go and back those townships up. So they're going in there for domestics and other things that we have. And it's just, we just saw it over the weekend on night shift. Unfortunately, we had a homicide. That doesn't happen all the time. But we had 3 separate crime scenes, and we ended up with 2 crashes, and we ended up with a criminal sexual assault that happened out in the county that went to the hospital. We just don't have the manpower to cover it. And there's an officer safety issue with it, just because our guys, there's nobody backing them up. The guy we took out of the house on the homicide, we had to call in our detectives that night, and 1 guy goes to the house with 1 deputy. That's not really a good way of doing business. So that's my concern. It isn't townships. I'm not necessarily looking for new positions. I'm just looking to replace what I think we've lost through the years. And the MCOL's number that I gave you, we're down 8. We don't need that back. We can do 2, but it's just the hard way of doing it right now. And the city numbers, I don't want to skew or mess that up. I had those just to check. We do go in the city. We do make traffic stops. We back people up in the city. With them doing PSO work, sometimes we, we'll take over or get into the city with the state if something big's going on. But we still are in the city too quite a bit. It's just the township cars can't go anywhere but their townships. They're locked in with a contract. So really that's what I guess I'm trying to say, is that we're just looking for 2 of the guys that had left that weren't replaced. I'm not looking to create new positions.
Commissioner Durancheck.
Yeah, thank you. At last week's the Bay County Township Association meeting, it was pretty nice. Pretty much, matter of fact, all the townships were there except for one. I had an opportunity to talk to them, and they reiterated, even Bangor Township, the supervisor out there, he says, hey, I understand that, we have our own police protection, but we need to have backup for these folks in case they have a problem. And as far as like out county residents, townships not paying, they don't have, hey, let's face it, these folks are paying for, helping to pay for ice arena and a golf course. That's, I look at it as a trade-off. Okay, they're not going there. Okay, so let's provide them with a little extra sheriff's deputy patrol out in the township.
Commissioner Begic.
That was that Monitor Township meeting last night, and their board was looking for more coverage, and got an email from Williams Township today from the supervisor that they're looking for more coverage also.
Commissioner Coon.
That's why I think we need to sit down with those folks and see how much coverage they want and how much they want to pay. And in here, we're approving one secondary road patrol deputy already. And there's another 3 that we're looking for, so we're going to...
No, we're looking, we have the one that's approved in the township. Frankenlist and Cawcolin are one of the jobs
there's another
that's
3.
funded. We requested 3. I think we're down to looking at 2 is where it's at. Just 2 generals is what we're looking for. 1 for each of the night shifts, just to give them 1 more guy in a shift.
Commissioner Ryder.
Through the chair to Mr. Redmond. By passing this resolution today, would we jeopardize any of the funding that we're trying to acquire?
Well, if the general fund's going to fund it, then what's the incentive for the townships to pay for it? Right now, everybody that has road patrol pays 100%, other than the pool, which started out at 9 townships, is now down to 3. Beaver, Fraser, and...
The townships are paying in the same amount, but yeah, Cawcolin absorbed that portion.
The Cawcolin and Frankenlist would be a second pool with 2. So,
and they're paying for that one.
I always look for funding when there's new positions, and that was my recommendation. But believe me, Finance, Kim President, Jan, and I have been looking hard for financing, and I think we've come up with the second. And if we had some more time and we talked to some of these, now what Commissioner McKick has said, there's a couple other townships that are potential funding sources. Another thing is I know it's got to be tough when somebody has 40 hours a month and somebody else has got this. But if we sat down and talked to them and explained to them that, in emergencies, traffic or whatever, everybody's going to be together to get a service. But when they have an accident in their township, then they're going to get the same service.
You're right, and they've had that in there where they
identify the funding. I'm 3/4 Irish, but I'm 1/4 Scot, so I'm always looking for that money. And we've managed to identify one in a very short period of time. And I think we just need a little more time and talk to a few townships.
It's just the only issue is just the township thing's great, and like I said, I mean, if it's there and if we can subsidize or get more there, it's just the general, because when they stay in those townships, they're locked in, and that really hurts across the boards. I mean, we don't have guys to be backing up the townships. It's an officer safety issue, because it's just like if you own a business and you're hiring security, you want them at your business. They're letting them go out, like you said, if there's extenuating circumstances or we have something really big. But when we just get like a domestic and it's up north, it's hard for us to say, hey, we're going to take the Bangor car and send them up to back a car up in Pinconning. I mean, unless we end up saying, hey, somebody's got a knife or they've got a gun or there's something more to it. But that's the only thing with the township, because I think we're funding, like, we got 8 general cars.
And saying what you recommend on when your deputies ought to be there, then, we find some other funding for it. Right now, you've got 2 to start out the year, and that gives us a month or two to find some other sourcing from these townships.
So that you're saying there's two right now?
The way I think is if we open the door to the general fund, then why can't Bay City come in and say, hey, for Essexville or Hampton or Marion, and say, hey, you're giving them a break, we want the same amount of money.
But we wouldn't be giving money to a township, you're saying, right? We're just doing it for general patrols, like county general cars or townships?
They're paying 100% for the road patrol.
For their township.
If somebody's going to get it for free, or for the general fund, then...
Well, they're just supplementing their township.
Basically, for a couple months for us to identify funding for the third officer.
So I'm going to take that as a yes to the question.
Do you have a meeting next week?
And for that
Do you have a
reason,
meeting next week?
I'm not willing to say yes. You know, from residents I represent in Bay City in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Ward, safety is a huge issue. That's probably their #1 issue, as a matter of fact. Yet, if there's some other funding out there, we've got to look at all the resources we can. I don't think we should make a decision and hit the general fund when there is a possibility that there's other funding out there. I don't think it's that, it has to be acted on that quickly. I believe in safety. I know my residents do, and I think I want Bay County to be safe, but in my book, I'd like to see what other funding is available out there, and if we can't achieve that, it would be better for Bay County as a whole if that happened. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Okay. Let's take you want to take a roll call on this one?
Sure. Commissioner Ryder?
No.
Lutz?
Yes.
Durancheck?
Yes.
Krieger?
No.
Begic?
Yes.
Coonan?
No.
Herrick?
Yes.
4 yes, 3 nays.
Okay. Is there any miscellaneous? Announcements, I have
Don't
one.
we have to re-vote on the budget?
Announcements, we have a board meeting next Tuesday after the personnel meeting, short one. And the appointments, we made all those. Is there any reason for a closed session, ma'am?
There is no need for a closed session.
Motion to adjourn is always in order. Support.
All in favor?
So you're going to...